Next one is a famous one, this is the Fibonacci sequence, so we get 8. It just is what it is. You have to recognize this if you're a mathematician. A huge thanks to my Patreon supporters for making this episode possible. Mathematicians, welcome back to another video. Here's something new for the hard exam series. It's not really a hard exam, but it fits right in there with like the papers where you can write on and you get a certain score. So here goes. Since my IQ test video is actually gaining quite some momentum in the last few days, and I'm quite glad about it because, well, clickbait, it worked out. You know me. I thought I might stand to my word and do what I said I would do in the video if the response from you, my subscribers and other people, was there, namely to cover the entrance exam, you could say, to actually participate at the official Mensa IQ test. And this is what we are going to talk about today. For those of you who don't know, I get these questions each and every time for a lot of videos. You can find the merch that I'm wearing in each and every video down there in the description at my Teespring shop. So check it out if you want to support the channel in any way. So in the normal case, I really don't care about my IQ score at all. I was kind of surprised about the score that I received, really surprised, because like I said there, I don't consider myself to be really smart. Dunning-Kruger effect, or whatever you call it, intensifies. I know, imposter syndrome or whatever it's called. But yeah, I only filmed the video and did it because yeah, it does make for some really good clickbait to post an IQ video. So yeah, why the hell not? This is why I actually filmed it in the first place. To be honest, I think that IQ tests aren't really an accurate measurement of one's raw intelligence, but what I think is that they are pretty fun to do. Even the cheap ones you find online, like the ones where you have to pay $50 afterwards just because, and they always tell you that you have like a Stephen Hawking's 186 IQ something just because you paid them $50 to actually evaluate stuff for you. Okay, like the actual IQ. This one included, it's a lot of fun. It really teaches you a lot about logical thinking and actually finding the next members and sequences and stuff like this. And it's really something that mathematicians are good at, to kind of put stuff together logically. And if you are a mathematician like me, then you might find this to be really fun. Yeah. Or even if you aren't a mathematician, it's a lot of fun to do those. So before we get into the actual testing, I want to give you some information about what this is about. You can also find the link to this paper down there in the description somewhere. You got 20 minutes to solve this thing, basically. That's a realistic time you should take to solve all 33 questions. And if I remember correctly, you need to get at least half of them right to be considered okay for taking the Mensa IQ test, the official one. So when I did this IQ test the first time, it was, I can remember, back in May or something, or April, I actually got, I think, 26 out of 33 questions right. And after doing all the questions and submitting the answers, like the homepage told me, yeah, you are good to go. You only took like 16 minutes to solve everything, and you are good to participate in the Mensa IQ test. You probably will score some kind of IQ between 115 and 145. Now, we are going to take a look at the actual test and we are going to try to solve through everything. I mean, it really doesn't take a lot of time and it's a lot of fun. If I got anything wrong, then please tell me so. This is just what I think are the best answers to those questions. So here goes, that's Mensa pre-test, you could say. So at first we got a few sequences going with respect to some letters or numbers. So at first we have A, D, G, J, and we need to guess what the next letter is going to be. So basically we have A, B, L, M, and you might notice that there's a gap of 2 between each and every letter, meaning B and C are going to be left out, and then E and F, and then we get I and H, K and L is going to be left out. So the right answer is going to be M. Next sequence is going to be this increasing one, 1, 3, 6, 10. You might notice that at first we have a gap of 2 in between each and every number, then we have a gap of 3, a gap, and then we have a gap of 4. Last gap would be a gap of 5, meaning the answer should be 15 in my opinion. Next one is a famous one, this is the Fibonacci sequence, so we get 8. It just is what it is. You have to recognize this if you're a mathematician. Next up, 21, 20, 18, 15, 11. What's happening here? Okay, 1 less, 2 less, 3 less, 4 less. So 11 minus 5 is going to give you 6. So that should do the trick, I suppose. Next sequence is 8, 6, 7, 5, 6, 4. What is happening here? Okay, we are reducing by 2, raising by 1. Reducing by 2, raising by 1, reducing by 2, raising by 1 is going to give us 5 overall. Alright, this next sequence should look familiar to you. So 256 is nothing but, this is going to be 2 to the 8th power. And we also have that 16. I haven't done this test in a while, so this is kind of improvised, but I still know a bunch of stuff, I suppose. 16 is nothing but 2 to the 4th power. And we have 6, 5, 5, 3, 6 is a power of 2. Let me see. 2 to the 10th power is 1024, meaning then 2 to the 11th. This should be 2 to the 16th power, meaning which pattern do we have here? So we have 2 to the something power all the time. And what is this power? We have 4, then 8, and then 16. So we are doubling the power. So it should be 2 squared as the first member of the series, or the last one here of the sequence in this case. So 2 squared is nothing but 4, and I think this should do the trick. Next one is nothing but the cosine, I think. The cosine of pi over 2 times n. It just is what it is, okay? Where n is element of natural numbers. So if we were to plug in, okay, this is when n is 0, then we are going to have 1, 2, 3, so the next one is 4. Cosine of 2 times pi is going to give us overall 1 yet again, which does make sense because we are alternating between 1, 0 and negative 1 and 0. So we are going to get 1 as the result. Next up, this is the hardest one of all the sequences here. So let me see for a second. 3, 8 and 63 are all 1 less than a perfect square. So we have 3 is nothing but 2 squared minus 1. Then we have 8 being nothing but 3 squared minus 1. And we have 63 being nothing but 8 squared minus 1. Yes, exactly, this was the pattern. I can see it again. So what we have here is we are going to drag the number that we are going to have as a solution down here to being squared. Meaning overall this number right here, 3968, should be nothing but 63 squared minus 1. I think that's right. Meaning if we were to continue this pattern, 2 is going to be the number that we are desiring. And this should do the trick. So next up is completing a sequence yet again, but this time kind of like a geometric sequence, you could say. So what do we have here? We are going to have 1 line, then 2 lines, then 3 lines. So most logical would be, in my opinion, that we have 4 lines. Next up is going to be like a reverse clock. Our little one, our tip right here, is going to stay downright all the time, and we are going to raise the angle by pi over 4 all the time. Meaning we are going to have a rotation pi over 4 times 4 of pi all the time, meaning overall we are going to have b as a solution. It's just going to be a straight line. I think you can see the pattern. It's going to go here and then there and then so, and at the very last like this. Okay, next up. This one I think is kind of a confusing one, because you could think that this right here is just 1 line, then we get 3, then we are going to get 5 lines. So we are going to raise it by 2 lines all the time, meaning 7 is going to conclude this one. But I beg to differ on this one. I think that's kind of a hard one, this sequence here, because you might notice that this line right here is going to get split up. So this line actually has kind of an axis here, and it's going to be split up into 2 lines after that. Okay, meaning what we have originally are 2 lines, then we are going to have 3. Next up is going to be 5, meaning it's just like with the Fibonacci sequence, 8 is going to be the next one. So we got 4 and 4 stripes. I think that should be right. Okay, next up, what is happening here? What we really need to focus on, I think, was that we have like a line here, then we are going to have like 2 lines here, it's going to go into 3 lines. So what we need next are 4 lines, meaning it's going to be a square, it's going to be one of those. But now we need to pay attention to what happens to our outer like curved line, you could say. It goes here at first, then like this, meaning next logical thing would be like this, meaning our solution should be D. Okay, next up, we're going to have an arrow that's going to be rotated, but most important here is I believe that we are going to add like a little line to this. 0 lines here at this arrow, 1, 2, so the most logical one would be the one with 3 lines here. So that's the only thing you really need to pay attention to. I don't think that you need to pay attention to the rotation of the arrow. Next up, I think this one is a cool one. You have to think about it a tiny little bit. We're going to have 2 lines here. What is going to happen next is that we are going to close it in. We are going to expand this line like this right here to get to our next one. Then we are going to go around this a little bit more. We are going to add a line here and here. So the most logical one would be if we go around once more like this. And this one should be solution number C. And I think this concludes the first one. I hope it was clear to you what I did. Okay, it's just my interpretation of the sequences here. If I get anything wrong, then that's totally fine. It just is what it is. Okay, next up, what is going to happen here? We are going to rotate our wall, basically, our dot in the clockwise direction, meaning it's going to go here, here, there, and in the last one like this. And what is happening to our line is going to alternate all the time. It goes here. It goes from here to here, up here, so it goes here. Meaning it's going to intersect in C. Our ball is there as well as our line. Next up, what is happening here? I think here you just need to concentrate on one of the nearly squares, and I did do so for the middle one, I think. So it's going to rotate upwards in the counterclockwise direction, then like this, so it needs to point downwards. And the only one pointing downwards is D. And this should do the trick. You can also go for the other nearly squares and you're going to see that this is going to fit. This next one is kind of special, I would say. I can just take a wild guess here. Thing is, what we are doing here, this is like a sequence of random, not repeating symbols, I suppose. So we are going to have lines here, then we are going to have balls here, sigma balls. After that we are going to have other lines there, which are kind of crossed. And next up, I would guess that B is the answer, because it's just a sequence of random symbols which come in numbers of 3 all the time. So we are going to get like 3 triangles. I'm not certain if that's right. It's kind of a weird one, to be honest. I don't know if the answer is right. Okay, next one is kind of easy. So what we have is, at first we are going to have like 5 edges, then 4 edges, 3. Meaning next up we are going to get kind of like 2 edges. It's going to give ourselves like an ellipse here in some way. You can also interpret it like this, for example, okay, like an eye. But what is going to happen to our like foot that we're having here? It's going to rotate in the clockwise direction. It's going to go up, then it's going to go to the right, meaning it's going to go down afterwards. And yeah, A is actually the answer then. Next up is not my complete strength. I'm not too good at those, so we need to complete like this sequence most logically. It's not really a sequence, we just need to find what fits in the best. And now we are going to see what it is. So here we are going to have 3 sides, and it's going to go to 4, meaning we are going to have one more side after repeating our procedure, basically, like our function, you could say, our mapping. Meaning most logical would probably be that we have 4 sides, and after that we are going to get 5. Probably is what it is. So next up is going to be, that's an easy one. We are going to have like a line right in the middle, and this line is going to rotate by pi over 2 after that. Meaning the only one that really fits, and our sides are going to stay constant, so like the number of sides is going to be from B, so from this triangle, to the other triangle, which is going to be rotated upwards a tiny little bit, okay, like pi over 4, and then with our little line in the middle. I think that should do the trick. Next up, we are going to have our geometric forms being preserved in some way, but it's going to be inverted. So from the circle outwards, we are going to have the circle on the inside, meaning the one that should probably fit are A and D, just because our square is going to go to the outside, triangle to the inside, and also our half square, you could say, is going to flip sides after all. Okay, this should work out. After that, this sequence right here. This is not too easy. Let me... So once again, we are going to reduce the number of sides by 1. Let me see if I can find a certain pattern here. And we are going to bring our lines that are crossing our geometric figure to the outside. Meaning what would fit best is, I think, from B to D. I think this does make the perfect... Yeah, I think this should make perfect sense because we are reducing the number of sides by 1 and our stripes are going to go from like upwards diagonal to kind of downwards diagonal, and I think this should work out. Next up is number 23. So what is happening here? Our dot is going to vanish right in the middle. Those ones should be easier. If the dots are vanishing right in the middle, then our square is also going to vanish right in the middle. So it should be D. Okay, next up, this one is really easy. We just need to find out what fits into like this hole right here, and it should be something like C then. And also our colors need to be inverted in some way. So this piece would fit right into here. Number 25 is going to be, okay, we are going to rotate our figurine. By how much? We are going to rotate it by pi over 2 by pi over 2 plus pi over 4 is 3 pi over 4. And we are going to invert like the arrow pointing direction. So since we are inverting this, it should be either B or D in some way, but we are going to rotate it by 3 pi over 4, meaning overall it should be D, because if we were to rotate it, it's going to look downwards. I think that should be correct. Okay, next up, those ones are really easy. I'm kind of good at those, like flipping 3D structures in my head. We are just going to turn it around such that the upper side of the of our die, it's just die, not dice, it's going to be on the downside of the whole thing, but the front is still facing to the front. Meaning since the front is still facing to the front, it should be this one right here, because the one is going to point downwards and we are going to have a different face right here on the side. And this is, yeah, the next one. Okay, ooh, this one is really spicy and hard, not gonna lie, it should be B actually. I think this is clear to everyone. I don't know if anyone can have problems here, so it should be B. Yeah, those are cool. I really like those. So what's happening here is that we are going to have like the same geometric figurine in the same line. So meaning we are going to have definitely a square here in some way, so it should be B or D, but which one is it going to be exactly? Let us see how it's permutated. It's doing permutations here actually. So we are going to have like those little squares on the top down here on the diagonal. Then we are going to have, those are all going to be with the ball, meaning on this diagonal, it's just like with a matrix, if you use the rule of Saru, then you're going to have the plus up here. So it should be D after all. Okay, I hope that's clear to everyone. Okay, what are we having here? We're going to have the star on the left hand side here. Also our figurines are going to be filled here, right in the middle, so it should be not filled. Also we should have the dot up here with the triangle. So it should be C. I'm terribly sorry. Okay, I hope you can see. We're going to have the dot here on the right hand side in the upper corner. Also it should be a triangle because this pattern continues. What's happening here? Our symbol is going to go to the right. Also on the lines, on the rows, it's going to be preserved which geometric figurine we are going to have. So it's going to be a triangle in some way, but how is our dot or whatsoever moving? So here it's going to stay in its equilibrium position in the middle somewhere. It's going to go to the right, then it's going to go down, meaning next logical thing in the clockwise direction would that it could go to the left. Yeah, I think that should be A. Okay, next up. Ooh, this one is spicy. That one is not too easy. Let me think for a second. Okay, we are going to have definitely a square in the middle. I hope everyone can see this. We're going to have a square in the middle row. Also, what is happening? Our symbols are going to rotate in the clockwise direction. So from here, our symbol goes to here, and from here it should go to here. If there were a symbol like the dot, it should be here in the normal case. Same thing here, it goes from here to downwards and from downwards to the left. Meaning, from here, it should go upwards into this corner in some way, so the star should be here. In some way, we are going to have a star up there and like a square. So this should be C. Okay, that was easy. Next up, we are going to have like the diagonals yet again. It seems here on the diagonals we are going to have a triangle in some way. Here we are going to have a square and here we are going to have the ball. Okay, but what is happening exactly? We are going to rotate it in the, like those lines, we are going to rotate it in the clockwise direction all the time. Meaning that's going to be rotated like this all the time, yeah. Pattern fits, so meaning it should be like this and with this rotated like this, and this is the number D. And I think we are at the, yeah, we are at the last one. That was quick, kind of quick I suppose. Okay, this one was kind of weird. I think what was happening here is since nothing here, you could also fill it here in some way. I think since the arrows are going like this, we are going to fill it in with an arrow up here in the corner. So I think that should be C. And I suppose we should have, yeah, I think it's C. We would have D and C, but the difference is black and white, but black and white are also rotating with our structure all the time. So I think it should be C. I hope all the answers were correct. And now I'm going to give everything back to Papa Flammy. And this concludes the video about the pre-test before the actual Mensa IQ test, where you can get your IQ measure. But before we actually end the video, I would like to thank today's sponsor Brilliant for sponsoring yet another video here on this channel. If you are not yet familiar with Brilliant, I'll tell you a few things about them. But first things first, I really love what Brilliant puts out. And I'm not saying this because I'm sponsored by Brilliant. This is not how this works, alright? I like to state my honest opinion about my sponsors as well here on this channel. And it's really important to give feedback. And in case of Brilliant, I have really nothing to criticize. It's just a lot of fun to go over their interactive learning concept. And it doesn't matter what you look for, STEM. If you are looking for mathematics, physics, quantum mechanics, statistics related content, go over to Brilliant, try something out. And they are expanding their repertoire of new courses each and every month. So just as an example, they have put out their new Infinity course this month, and I'm going to cover it next week here on this channel as a new live stream. And I invite you to come over there and watch me solve through a bunch of Brilliant stuff. And yeah, you can get yourself your own impression basically about the website if you just take a look at what I'm doing there. And I can promise you it's a lot of fun attending those live streams, a lot of conversation going on in the chat, and people generally really enjoy what Brilliant puts out because their learning concept is really simple but powerful, and it's just absolutely nice. I really love how you can turn around stuff in coordinate systems and just take a look at graphs and play around with geometric structures a tiny little bit while you're solving the exercises. Even the Python courses are so amazing because they have a little Python interface implemented in there, and you can program on their website in Python and check if your answer is completely fine, and you can track around stuff in the algorithm course. It's just absolutely amazing. I love going through their stuff, and I invite you to watch me do so. If you also want to try out Brilliant, then make sure to check out the link at the top of the description. With it you are going to get a free access to a big portion of Brilliant, and the first 200 people to actually use the link get 20% of an annual premium subscription. So if you want to try it out and support the channel this way, make sure to use the link down there. And other than that, I thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, recommend channel if you like. If you want to support channel a bit more by those teachers I created, everything's harmonic, proxylator, no, oscillator if you're brave enough, and support channel on Patreon. And up until the next video, I'm wishing you guys a flammable day. Ciao!